Hey again, everybody. Welcome to Scrap Cooking. I'm Harriet Clooney, and we are here in the gorgeous Urban Element kitchen. And today we are going to be making a Bearnaise sauce with some poached eggs on some toasty bread, featuring a recipe that we did previously, tarragon vinegar. So you should hit that like, hit that subscribe, and go back and watch that episode. So, first thing that we need to do is I'm going to just show you when I get a bunch of tarragon. Usually, sometimes it's got a little elastic around it, and I take that off right away. And then I'm gonna put it in a little container that's narrow and tall. Could be a jar, could be a deli container like this. And then I'm just gonna go psh with the water, because that's just to regulate the humidity within. And then I will keep it with a lid on it. And I find that this will keep the tarragon a little bit longer than if it's just in its in a bag. But so what we're gonna do, so Bearnaise is like a hollandaise, and it's just a hollandaise with tarragon in it. So we're gonna layer our tarragon flavor by using, instead of just plain white wine, we're gonna use the vinegar, my apologies. Instead of just using the tarragon as a flavoring at the end, we're gonna use the tarragon vinegar at the beginning, so we can just add in a bit more layered flavor. So we're gonna take off the lovely tarragon leaves, and if you're not a big fan of anise, then this isn't gonna be your favorite recipe. But if you're like me, who likes black licorice and all things anise, then you will love it. But I actually don't find tarragon to be like punch in your face black licorice. It's just sort of subtly there. It's a really lovely herb. I find it quite an elegant herb, and sometimes an underutilized herb. So we're gonna pick a couple of these sprigs, and we can do that depending. You can hold it by the top and just sort of pull down. Oh, well, if it wants to cooperate. And these woody stems are what we made our tarragon vinegar with. So we boiled a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of water, and then we poured it over the tarragon stems, and you just sort of let it sit. You can kind of steep it like a tea. All right, I'm gonna do one more, and then I think we have enough. All right, so there we go. So these I'm gonna save for later, because I make tarragon vinegar as I'm going. I always just sort of keep adding some tarragon to a vinegar I already have going, or I'll start fresh, pour hot vinegar over a new one. So we can put that away. We're just gonna give this tarragon just a light chop. And you wanna make sure that you're not going up and down with the knife and kind of bashing it. Tarragon's quite a delicate herb, and it really gets slimy quickly. So we don't wanna do that. So we're just really, really gentle with the knife, and just keeping the tip of the knife on the board at all times. So you're moving the knife through the tarragon, and that'll not bruise it as much. In some applications of using herbs, you want to bruise it, but not in this one. So it's gonna put it into our Bearnaise sauce at the very end. So we don't want it to get black, because it will oxidize and be kind of gross. So we're gonna save that for after. Now our next move is we're going to turn on our poaching pot. So we've got a pot of water with quite bigger, so we're gonna be cooking 2 eggs. And this is a medium-sized pot, and it's filled sort of 3/4 of the way with water. And we definitely want that. Oh, there we go. And we want to put it on high because we want to bring it all the way to a boil. But we are going to add about 1/4 cup of white vinegar to our water. And the reason that we do that is because we want the vinegar to help coagulate, and by coagulate I mean like kind of harden and stay in one place, the whites of the egg, so that it makes that nice little bundle that you get when you have poached eggs. If you just crack an egg into a pot without vinegar in it, it's doable. It's a lot harder. And what will happen often is that it will kind of spread out like it would on a frying pan and not get that nice little bundle. So the vinegar in the pot is really going to help with that shape and get the proteins coagulating fast enough so that it is able to build the wall around where it's going to be cooking that little bundle. So we got our water going. So our next step in Bearnaise is to cut some shallots. Now I had one already on the go, so I'm just going to cut this little top off and peel it. Now I'm going to save my shallot peelings for a stock in the future. So we've got that, and then I'm going to cut off the top and cut that guy in half and do the same. And they're nice clean peels, so I'm not worried about it being full of dirt. But if it was, I'd probably put it in the compost. But since it's not, we'll keep it. There we go. And we're going to be sweating these guys. So we're going to cut them into small pieces. So I'm going to use my knife and make several incisions gently to the back of the shallot, but not going all the way through because we want it all to be attached. And then I'm going to go into with my knife to the back, but not going all the way through. We still want it to be attached. Then I'm going to hold the other side. It's going to help me keep the shallot in place. And with this kind of cutting, it really does help to have a sharp knife. But if you don't, that's okay. You can cut off the end and do it more so that they're unattached. It just gets messier. But at the end of the day, we are going to be putting it in a blender. So it's not necessary to make sure that they are the most beautiful cuts you've ever made. All right, so now we're gonna cut into small pieces. And these little shallot nubbies, I'm gonna put in my stockpile. Woo, woo, woo. All right, so got my shallots. So now I'm gonna turn on my pan. So we don't want it to be on high, so I'm gonna put it down to medium. And I'm just gonna put these into a little bowl so they're ready. And I'm gonna take this butter that I have and I'm gonna cut it into small cubes so that it melts faster. So I'm gonna, and I find it easier to keep, to cut it on the butter paper, but if you don't want your knife to go all the way through the butter paper, making it less fun, then if you put a tea towel underneath it, I actually find that it works way better and you don't get the little windows almost looking at in your butter paper. So I'm gonna add about 1/3 of it. Now traditional hollandaise uses clarified butter, which I do not use myself. So clarified butter, when you remove the water from the fat, and to do that you would cook it so that it's an emulsion, so it's got water and fat hanging out all at the same time, and then when you cook them they separate. So what we want is to do it really slow and then let it cool, and then you'll see that there's the fat on top, and then there's a little bit of liquid at the bottom. So they skim just the fat off and use that. But I personally find that it uses, that it's got enough flavor in it, and I don't find that it messes up my hollandaise, and I find it tastes better personally. So we're gonna do that. So where are my shallots at? So I'm gonna add my shallots in here. And a pinch of salt. And this is actually a little bit too much butter, so I'm gonna pour a little bit out. There we go. So now we're just gonna cook our shallots sort of low and slow. We don't want them to brown. We just want them to get translucent. So we're gonna cook them for about 3 to 5 minutes. They're so small, they won't take super long, but we're just gonna monitor the heat because it may be too hot. All right, so I'm gonna add in my vinegar and my wine, and we are gonna cook that. Might turn the heat up just a little bit. We're gonna cook that until there's very little liquid left. So these are sort of the flavor building blocks that the sauce is known for. In about 2 minutes, I'm gonna add my tarragon vinegar, and so that's about a 1/4 cup, and this is 1/2 cup of white wine. And if you don't have any white wine, you can use a little bit of water, or if you had some other flavorful stock of some kind, you could use that as well. Another fun little tip is that butter paper, as you can see, it's still got a whole bunch of butter on it. So I like to kind of stockpile them. I fold them in half, and then I put them in a Ziploc bag. And sometimes I keep them in the fridge if I'm in the restaurant, because I'll use them quite quickly, or I might keep them in the freezer. And then when it's time to grease a pan, then I will take them out, bring them to room temperature, and then grease my pan with the piece of butter paper so that we are using everything. All right, so in the meantime, we are going to separate some eggs. For our hollandaise, we want the egg yolk, so we're gonna use 4. So I tap it on the cutting board, and then I go back and forth between the shell to get my yolk separated. So one of the reasons that we use the eggs in a hollandaise is because it contains lecithin. And lecithin can be found in several things. It can be found in mustard and egg yolks, but also garlic and soy. So you'll often see it as an ingredient. So what it is an emulsifier. So that means it is the mutual friend of oil and water. And oil and water, they don't really like each other, but they both like lecithin, so they'll tolerate each other when they're together. So it's how you make a mayonnaise, or some of your maybe favorite salad dressings. There we go. All right, so this guy is good. You can see the edges were starting to get a little bit brown, so I think that's good. So what we're going to do is put that aside. We've got our egg yolks. These egg whites we are gonna save. I'm gonna put them aside, and there's a myriad of things we can do with egg whites. But if you keep watching, I'll be able to show you a whole bunch of different things to do with egg whites. So now we need to melt our butter. So I am going to add this guy, our shallots, wine, and tarragon vinegar. I'm gonna put it into my blender. Now, if you don't have a blender, that's okay. You can definitely do a hollandaise by hand. It takes a little longer, but it is more satisfying. But if you run out of time or are in a busy restaurant, then I do like the blender method. There we go. Okay, so we're just gonna get this guy nice and melty. We are going to add our egg yolks and a pinch of salt to the blender. Turn this on, but not at high heat, probably down to medium, because we're really just melting it. We do want the butter to be hot, but we don't want it to be like boiling over or burning. But for our poached eggs, I find it way easier to make sure that my eggs are already cracked and separated into a container, because then you have a bit more control over how you drop the egg into the water, because it really is a, excuse me, that's enough. Really does help the shape of the bundle, depending on how you drop it, which I will show you in a bit. But now that my butter is ready, we're gonna go and we're gonna finish that Bearnaise, although up until I add the tarragon, it's really a hollandaise. Here we go, we've got all of our things in there. We're gonna make sure that it is on the variable setting before we turn it on, and also the lowest setting. And then we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna so in order to make an emulsion, like I said, oil and water, they're not really friends. So you have to sort of introduce the fat into the base slowly. And those shallots are gonna help because they also contain a little bit of lecithin, and the egg yolks are gonna help. So we're gonna add just a little bit at a time. And it's also gonna thicken it. So once you've added a little bit in, you can go a little bit faster, but you're really not going, you're just going at a trickle. So it's got that beautiful color, nice and thick. It's very easy to split a hollandaise. So it is a tricky sauce, because if you add in the fat too fast, they don't like it. And so the oil and the the oil and the water that's in it will separate, and then it's kind of gross. If the butter's too hot, it will cook the egg, and then it will separate as well. So it's a fine balance. If you kind of see that it's getting quite thick, but you still have a little bit of butter, you can add just a couple splashes of warm water. I find that really helps. And then you can keep adding the fat after that once that's incorporated. But we have a beautiful, nice thick hollandaise, so we're almost ready on that. So we're gonna keep it over here where it's warm. And now we're gonna get to our poached eggs and our bread. So I've got a little bit extra butter. I am going to put in this pan to cook my toast. And I'm gonna turn my water down because it's a bit high. I don't want it to be boiling. I don't really want there to be a lot of bubbles going. I really just want it to kind of be hot enough that it's gonna cook the egg, but if the water's boiling, it's kind of gonna, the raw egg is gonna get pulled all around the pot and it's gonna be ugly and then it's gonna make your pot cloudy and it's a whole deal. So we're gonna turn that down. So this one's on medium right now. I'm gonna turn it to medium low. And at home, if you have an electric stove, it's probably, I mean, it depends on your electric stove, but I'd probably say, you know, have it at a boil, but then bring it down to closer to low, because you really don't want it to be too hot. But we are gonna turn on my burner in the front to make my toast. So I'm gonna have that on medium high, medium if you're on an electric. All right, so we're gonna drop my eggs. And I find, so I don't know if you can see, but what I'm gonna do with my slotted spoon is I'm gonna make a little whirlpool. So I'm gonna take the back of my spoon and I'm gonna push it away from me. And as I do that, that's gonna make a little whirlpool. And then I'm gonna drop my egg into that whirlpool. And that little whirlpool is going to help the egg get its shape. So I'm going to move my spoon just gently. I'm not trying to make a huge pot movement, but I'm just gonna, and then you can kind of see that just gently kind of twirls around itself a little bit. And then I'm gonna do the same thing again. So just gonna push it. And it kind of does it on its own, but sometimes you can help it by going around it a little bit gently. All right, so we're gonna leave those. Woo. But before I burn my butter, we're gonna cook my toast. And for soft poached eggs, takes between 3 minutes and 5 minutes. So we'll set a timer. And every now and then I'm just gonna gently help it along. So I also have here a plate, or you could use a pie pan with a clean tea towel. So when I pull the eggs out of the pot, it's gonna take away the excess liquid. And my toast is almost done. I was very close, but I didn't burn the butter. Saved it. Woohoo! And I think we got about a minute or so left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my tarragon to my Bearnaise and just check it for seasoning. Woo! And you wanna keep it in a warm spot, but like I said, it's quite prone to splitting. So I've got this nice spot which is nice and warm from the, but it's not on a element. So it keeps it warm and keeps it staying its temperature. And there we go, we're gonna give it a taste. Yeah, that's really good. I'm gonna give it 1 pinch of salt. But you can really get the sort of dual tarragon flavor in there, which is pretty cool. There's the timer. annoying timer. So we're gonna make sure that the white is cooked. All right, this one didn't, so this one's good to go because it didn't form the perfect bundle. So you can see that the yolk is sort of on the side, poking out. Now, sometimes that is how you dropped it in, but sometimes it's just the egg itself. The older the egg, the more liquidy the white, so the yolk can get sort of pulled out from the white more easily. So this one had a nice package, little bundle. So we're just going to give it like 30 seconds, maybe 20, and we're good to go. All right, so we have our lovely toast, our lovely poached eggs, and our most delicious double tarragon Bearnaise. That hasn't cooled down all the way, which is great. And our butter toast, so it's all of the butter. So we're gonna pick it up and put it on top. And I mean, you can do however your eggs benny any way you want. Classic with some pea meal bacon, or with kale or spinach or cheese or whatever. But we're just gonna do sort of simple, just eggs on toast with this beautiful, thick, rich, luscious sauce. Oh yeah. Yum. I am so excited to eat this. All right, I'm gonna dig into this amazing bundle of goodness. Oh yeah. Get that good, nice, runny yolk. It's probably a big piece. I'm just too excited to eat it. Yeah. That's really good. I almost forgot to say goodbye because I was just gonna eat the whole thing right then and there. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Can't wait to show you how to use some egg whites. I'm even gonna show you a couple things that we can do with some egg shells. So stay tuned. Hit our like button, our subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much.